Hey,
Hey, there he
I
is.
am so sorry I'm late, but in my defense, I'm an idiot.
All good, man. Appreciate the time.
I appreciate your patience.
All good, all good. So, want to get into the tour, talk a little bit about your music, get your
One
opinion on a
second.
couple things.
Sluta spela musik just nu. Yeah, one more time. Sorry.
Okay, all good. So, want to get into the tour, your music, get your opinion on a couple of things. But let's
Sure.
start off with the tour. We got you coming to Southern California, Hollywood
Mhm.
Palladium, September 4th, obviously along with Ice Nine Kills and In This Moment. And you've been touring for a while now. When you come to Hollywood, does it still have that luster for you? Is it still exciting? Is it still Tinseltown, or is it like, been there, done that?
Actually, no, LA is fun. Hollywood is fun like that. Because when we have played the shows, haven't really had a chance to go around unless like because work happens in LA, which
Ah,
is also a neat feeling. Honestly, we also recorded an album in Los Angeles, and it felt very validating in a way that when part of a town is built around this industry that was otherwise, growing up, it was that industry was some posters on your wall and your boy room and a basement somewhere where you rehearse, right? So
yeah.
then that this structure around is like, oh, validating, but in but that also means it takes away time from doing the LA stuff, walking around with sunglasses indoors and say I'm on a list or whatever you people do all days. But only time I really so when we recorded, we lived in the studio and yeah, did it the Avatar way. So basically, it's like staying on submarine mission. But one day it's like, play solos, I'm out of here, and I went wandering around and made it. Took a hike up to the observatory and then found a way to walk all the way down to Sunset Boulevard and stop at things along the way. So being a tourist, I've done that and all the Scientology things. There was so many at some point, and especially the Christmas nativity scene made by them was particularly interesting. Um, so I so no, it hasn't lost its shine and appeal to me. Is a short answer because I just haven't really had the chance to grow tired of it like that.
And then is there any like must-haves when you come through SoCal or Hollywood? Like you like I got to get some Mexican food or some craft beer or anything or sushi or I don't know.
The band is all vegan,
Ah,
so that which LA is great for.
yeah.
So then not to say, well, we have a friend of the band who also runs a restaurant business and has multiple. He has restaurants in New York and LA and Vegas and probably elsewhere that I don't even know of. And he has his chef whip up oftentimes something just for us has happened a few times. So it's kind of anything goes because there are so many good options for us when we're there. So that's more a joy of it.
Awesome. And what a hell of a show. I mean, you three bands, I can't even call it a concert. It's a show. All three of you
Mm,
put on a show, not just a concert. You don't just stand up there and play. And all three
mm,
really different bands and different ways of performing a show, which is really cool
mm.
about this tour.
Yeah, it's been good. I just think that is what ties it together, right? The theatrical aspect and different interpretations of what that means for how to put together a concert. Yeah, I think we cover some kind of metal spectrum pretty widely and neatly. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think everyone's got their own little approach to it. Maria is almost kind of like this goddess, and then
Mm,
Spencer is kind of acting out things, and you guys got your tongue firmly planted in your cheek while performing. That's why I love you. Don't forget to
mm.
laugh. Sometimes metal can get so serious, but I love that you always bring that sense of humor through it as well.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because yeah, because that's a thing that people kind of sometimes lose track on, right? And I think, and of course, I think that everybody else in the world is wrong, and we are the one who are right. But no, but it's this thing like because I'm not necessarily feel like we need more novelty bands in metal where it's all the tongue also sometimes need to be elsewhere than in the cheek, but the cheek is still part of your anatomy. I think that I always go back to thinking Judas Priest stuff, right? And that the Breaking the Law music video was really funny also back then, you know?
Yeah.
And but you're still Judas Priest, so you it's a difference between being to give to providing people with a good time and also to give of yourself the full spectrum of what you have to give, uh, uh, as opposed to just being a joke or stuff, so I like the fact that we can, you know, write the kind of music we do the way we do for the reasons we do it, and what that gives us just in a creative state of it, and what we bring up that to the stage and let ourselves be moved and try to move people with it, but then at the same time also, yeah, the humanity of farts. I don't know. There's room for everything.
Totally, totally. And I'm kind of curious for you guys, is this still kind of looked at like the Dance Devil Dance tour cycle? You're still going to be leaning into that album on this tour?
Yeah, and that's a big countdown because after this run, now this is the last thing we do before we, turn page and end this chapter. So, and that will also include us staying home for a bit, finishing up the stuff we're working on, figuring out everything about what the next chapter will be. We're already well on our way, but still a lot of work to be done. But what it effectively means is no more Avatar shows for like a year.
Well, that's what I was going to get into was the new music because you kind of squirted out a few new tunes back in March for us with "Make It Rain" and "The Other Side of Tonight." Was that just kind of a teaser to get us excited for the next album?
No. This is more of an afterbirth of the last album. It's a nice, thick, tasty, juicy afterbirth. It's just it's that crazy thing that happens, but we also know it happens, and we kind of like it to be like that. We don't want to record 30 songs and keep 10, but it's good to aim for to have 14 things to go to the studio with or something. Seems like a good amount. And then we kind of strict on what we seems like a good album length is the old vinyl long play and time limit. What is it, roughly 42 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
That seems to me like a sensible amount of music to be put out at any given time, unless you have very specific reasons to go beyond that. But to make an album, that's good, and also that also forces you to kind of build a nice little frame around what you created, and really ask some tough questions when you do it. What that leads to is that sometimes a really good song doesn't seem to make sense on an album at that time, so you kind of put it aside, and then you don't need to live with that music for a bit, and 6 months later or whatever it was, 1 year, you kind of listen to that song you didn't put on the album, like, we're idiots, this is so good. And then we kind of like, but then you have the Beatles thing that you can do. Strawberry Fields and Penny Lane was originally not on any album, was a double A-side single. It was two of their most important and best works. So yeah, which also kind of bridges the gap, I think, between albums. But again, has nothing to do what's coming next. It's part of the Dance Devil Dance era of creating. So it was also important to have it come up now when it's closer to, like, I feel it's important. I don't know if it's important to the world or to the business of what we're doing, but it's important to, at least to me personally, to put things out when they are relevant to where we are at in life. I can't to not, because it's such a huge important part for why I want to do this and do it the way we do it, is that I always learn something along the way, musically, but also hopefully about myself. That learning experience with each album matters a lot to me, and to have that really be communicated through that the entertainment we provide with is rooted in what's going on with us, right? And if the songs come out way later than when they were created, that's no longer going on with us in that particular way anymore, hopefully, because hopefully we grow a bit like people. So sure. Where it matters what song came out,
Going back to the Dance Devil Dance album for 1 second, one of my favorites from it, Violence No Matter What, with Lzzy Hale. Wanted to learn about that tune. How did you connect with her for that?
We had played a few shows with Hailstorm, open for them in UK back there. Well, how long? Now suddenly it feels like very long ago. I can't even pinpoint the year, but I
Right.
think that must have been the first thing we did together. Then you bump into each other on a festival here and there, so it's a little bit of that. But but then we had this song that was never. You never start like, oh, let's. Can we do something with a feature? Can we do something that is this or that? It would probably it's because it's a smart thing to do. But it has to start with the music for us. And this song, Tim wrote some music, and I was going to come up with some vocals. And all these vocals ideas were came out in the style of a duet. So like, oh, here it is now. Good. Okay, so who we got? Who would be fun? Who do we think is up for it? Who would fit and all that? And all answers pretty quickly. Lzzy was came up, and all, no matter how that question was asked, it always made sense to ask her on the very face value of we're Avatar's a sausage party, so um, so maybe we bring in someone who can provide sounds that we are not able to do inside the camp, and then also about who's cool, who's good, and who do we have a little bit of a relationship with. As again, Lzzy says yes to these kind of things, and then over delivers, and is cool and nice and friendly to hang out with. So
What
it
a
was easy like that. But it started with the music.
what a voice too. I mean, man, she's got some
Mm,
pipes on her.
yeah, absolutely.
I'm plant this seed with everything we're talking about because guest features are a big thing. I feel like every song that comes out now, every album that comes out, it's got two or three of them on them. And
Mm.
ironically enough, last night I saw The Godfather. If you talk about putting on a show, I saw The Godfather last night, Alice Cooper.
Oh yeah.
And it got me to thinking, man, your voice next to his would be magic. And I'm kind of curious if you are a big Alice Cooper fan, what started that showmanship for you? Was it him? Was it another band?
Well, I've been seen on stage wearing a red coat going down to knee length hats, black makeup, kind of going down in lines underneath my eyes, and a swing a cane around while having fun in a band that also dabbles a bit in horror scenes and had theatrical centerpieces throughout the shows. Of course, I've never heard of Alice Cooper. Who's that? uh, I, of course, like Alice Cooper was part of that. Like, I think I just happened to grow up, like especially in metal in general had some kind of revival late 90s, right?
Hmm.
And I think the most shortened version of what happened in the world, I feel, or it's in the Western world, is like the part of the world we who think we are the world, comparing Europe to North America, right? The two big things I feel like happened was on this side in US, new metal happened from uh, it, yeah, your chords and Slipknots and System of a Down and everything else and something up to Linkin Park and that whole era, right?
Sure.
And while that is kind of the main thing that happens here, there's like more of a heavy metal revival in Europe, spearheaded by Hammerpop from Sweden, but a lot of I don't know. It's became very, very hip among us kids to listen to Dad's vinyl collection, pretty
Uh-huh.
much. That
Uh-huh.
was a huge just a huge thing. We were so into stuff from the 70s and 80s. And that was pretty normal, I think, among friends. Together with, the whole melodic death metal explosion, the Gothenburg sound and everything. But I
In
also
Flames.
felt in its melodic stuff exactly connected to the old school stuff. So that was a huge explosion for me. Like I guess it started probably a friend had a Kiss poster, and then Alice Cooper and Sabbath and Purple and CC Top, all these plethora of a certain era where you also didn't really know exactly how to discriminate between what was what. It was just all awesome. So in that, he's there extremely early, and then it took a while for me to see Alice Cooper live. And when I finally did relatively recently now, it's been a few years, but still, in adult age, it's one thing is, of course, the guillotine, right?
Yeah.
Or hang from a noose, hang from a snake, or blood splatter stuff. Sure. But then you have what happens in between, what real frontmanship is, what when you're really great. And this is what I aspire to in terms of that. Yeah, we also have bring bells and whistles to the stage, but I'm very confident in that Avatar's event that we have that, we use that, we like that, we add that, we don't need that. And that guarantees for an actually good show that is not the best bells and whistles. It's a hat you put on. You don't you
Right.
kind of a hat is a very shaky foundation to build a house upon. But you wear it on top. It's the chair on top, and same. And as Cooper was a master of that, the theatrics in the person is so important. Like on that show that I saw, there was this. They did like this medley of basically, I guess, Cooper's dead friends.
Okay.
So they sang, and had little tombstones, one for John Lennon, and I want one for Jim Morrison, and I want to say that was for one for Keith Moon.
Yeah. The
And they
Hollywood
did
vampires.
pieces of exactly. So you got a bit of singing Revolution by the Beatles, Break Out Through to the Other Side by the Doors, and I guess what's My Generation, I think it was. And just how else, he wore some round sunglasses for the Lennon part, but he kind of acting out, like letting the spirit of whichever song he was doing there kind of inhibit him. Is that the word?
Yeah.
Inhibit? No, that's okay. Sure, why not? I'm out that second language, whatever. So he and how that shaped the performance, just standing there and having, and with very, let's say, tiny tool, like tiny little, how would you call it? Now I have the Swedish word in my head for it. Med små stilgrepp. Well, you Google Translate that later. He's able to slightly shift into without it feeling hammed up or, you know, community theater about it. And
Right.
it's able to express it becomes very fun and playful and touching and so full of love, and it absolutely rocks at the same time. There I was profoundly impressed beyond, of course, the innovations of what he brought to rock and roll stage in terms of theatrics. There's so much more to it that I guess if you do this for a living, as I'm fortunate enough to do now, like maybe that means I pick up on the everything else, because once you have the guillotine, that idea, and it's there, hard to fail in terms of just show element.
Sure.
But how to in a rocking, loving way bring Jim Morrison to life for 90 seconds. Just bam, bam, bam. That was magic.
Yeah. I mean, he's the godfather. I mean, he's the creator of them all,
Mm,
and still amazing. It's late 70s and
mm.
last night is still crushing it. So I'm just gonna put that out in the universe. The two of you on a track together would be amazing.
Would be nice.
Johannes, I appreciate all the time. Last thing I got for you, man. We're an old school radio station. We do a feature called Mandatory Metallica every night at 10 p.m., which you're going to be a part of. Speaking of 80s metal, I imagine you're a Metallica fan.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So I've been having this little Metallica debate I want to get your opinion on. Been debating with my buddy their best thrash metal album, and we come down on opposing sides. So I want to get your take. We battle it out. His pick is Ride the Lightning, and my pick is the next album, Master of Puppets.
Mm.
If you had to pick one out of those two, which is the better thrash metal album from Metallica?
I will give you another long-winded answer. Uh, I when I talk to like people who are like the music but don't necessarily play the music, and talk about, again, the finer details in what makes something awesome. um and talking about, for instance, when talking about fast and slow songs, um I love to show an example of how Aces High is the fastest song ever recorded by Iron Maiden, which of
Yeah,
course are on paper much, much faster songs, but it's
sure.
something about having that drive when you play. It almost feels like it's falling apart, and it actually illustrates, it works great for World War, dog fighting, airplanes. You know, it's there in the drumming already and the bass playing, and it carries through. And in the same way, and that's how when you push it, when you push the tempo, and then and then to show the, you know, every kid who's been playing drums even once hear someone talks about AC/DC, of course, and you take for instance Back in Black, to, you know, that to have that drag when you play, that really make, you know, stank face thing
Yeah.
when, you know, then you have certain iconic songs that have that provide a certain ideal. And in the same way that I always put Aces High as the fastest song ever recorded in this kind of conversation, For Whom the Bell Tolls, I think, is the heaviest song ever recorded. And you
Oh.
have songs like, you know, I know Meshuggah and Neurosis exist, and I know Obituary exists, you know,
Right.
and all kinds of stuff. And that's also true. And that's the heaviest thing ever, also in another way.
Right.
But just first half of the 80s, those risks, that anger, with that rage and sense of, I don't know, that it's importance that comes through in how that riff is played, that primitive riff in the beginning, da 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 da, and the decision to put the cymbal crash on the first snare in the bar after instead on the other one, you know, do 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 boom, and
Yeah.
all that. The real, so that song. I mean, I've never tried to write a song like that, but I keep going back to thinking about that song in terms of what's actually heavy music. We tune down, and that's part of sound is important, but none of the things matter before, you know, you can't put the cart in front of the horse.
Sure.
And Boom the Bell Tolls and the ideals that you can pick up in terms of how to play metal, um, that song is the horse.
That's
So it
where it
has to be
all is.
right lightning.
Really. And no issues, because I mean, obviously they're both great albums. My issue with Ride the
Yeah,
Lightning is the sound quality. I just thought Masters sounded so much better
and it does.
sonically.
But then there are different ways. Yeah, but then it does. But it's also certain ways that things can sound great when they sound less great. Is, you know, like, I don't know if you go outside of the genres we're talking now, but you know how lo-fi music with that over driven thick bass that's usually in that kind of music makes you can be very incredibly sober, but just in those frequencies make you kind of trip balls and hear things in the sound that isn't even there. You know, so there's a time and place for everything, and
Sure.
yeah.
So normally I would have the guest pick a song to play on Mandatory
For Whom
Metallica.
the Bell Tolls,
I
then.
was gonna say,
Yeah,
I think you pretty much picked it with For
yeah.
Whom the Bell Tolls. Beautiful, man. Thank you so much for
That
the
was like
time.
pulling out a tooth. I'm so sorry, but it works.
It was great. It was a great conversation. Honored to get to talk to you. Can't wait for the new music next year, and can't wait to see you in September in a few weeks here.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for your time.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Have a good one. Bye.